Resident Evil Revelations is a game that contains some of the most terrifying enemies in the entire Resident Evil series. From the disturbing mutation of the Ooze, to the tragic transformation of Rachel Foley, all the way to the twisted origins of the Scagdead enemy, here is the lore of every enemy from Resident Evil Revelations. Ooze are humans who have mutated after being infected with T-Abyss, which was a retrovirus engineered as a bioweapon. This virus inserts genes from deep-sea fish into the human genome, causing a grotesque mutation to the body, taking on the form of waterlogged corpses and shedding water continuously in the form of slime. In order to survive, these creatures must drink massive quantities of water, forcing the Ooze to prey upon other animals, including humans, to replenish their body's water content. When attacking their prey, needle-like teeth will open up holes in the body, and following this, the esophagus will be extended out to drink from the holes, akin to a leech. The slime ooze produced can be used as a lubricant to aid in the hunting of prey, and ooze are known to climb through air vents in search of food. Their movement pattern is awkward and unpredictable due to their feet mutating into crooked stumps. The reason for this is unknown, but it's theorized it could be to aid in maneuvering through vents and small spaces. This gives them an unsettling shuffling gait as they walk forward. Despite this oddity, they make use of the falling forward momentum to pick up speed when assaulting prey. Due to certain genetic factors that present themselves in early mutations, Ooze are almost always male, with females tending to turn into sea creepers, though this is not an absolute rule. There are several types of Ooze, each which display different characteristics. The first variant is the standard type. This type shares the same height as humans, and its head appears to be hinged near the base of the skull. It has long needle-like teeth on the upper jaw, and rather than a bottom jaw, the head of the creature tilts back, revealing the esophagus from which its leech-like tongue extends. The creature also has coral-like growths of bone extending from their arms. Their main avenue of attack is a grab, where it will attempt to suck out the player's blood, while also attempting to hit the player. The pincer variant of the Ooze possesses long claw-like arms. These arms are folded like razor blades and extend when attacking their prey. They are capable of incapacitating humans, rendering them unable to move or attack with anything other than a handgun. Similarly to the standard Ooze variant, the pincer variant can also grab their prey and suck out their blood, although this happens less often. They are both faster and significantly more powerful than a standard Ooze. The next variant of Ooze is known as the Trisorn type. This mutation develops a bizarre arm in the shape of a crossbow, which shoots sharp organic projectiles. Due to this mutation, this type usually tends to keep some distance between them and their prey. The last variant of Ooze is known as the Chunk type. Described as a grotesque lump of meat that has no hands or arms, this type has undergone a horrible mutation and turned into flesh bags filled with explosive gas. These Oozes tend to guard doorways and hide around corners. Their method of attack is unique in that they will sacrifice themselves and explode when you get too close. The Globster is an irregular mutant created through the T-Abyss virus. Their name is short for grotesque blob monster. These creatures come from soldiers on board the Queen Dido ship that became infected through T-Abyss, causing them to mutate uncontrollably into these terrifying enemies. After the Queen Dido self-destruct system went off, many of the creatures were destroyed in the blast. However, some managed to wash up on shore, where they would lie in wait for any prey to draw near them. There were also a few of these creatures that survived and remained at the bottom of the ocean, where they swam around the sunken ship waiting for any unsuspecting prey to walk in their paths. Globsters appear as a massive blob with pinkish skin and a large toothy mouth on their underside. Despite the fact that they are created from humans, nothing resembling a human is left. They have no discernible eyes, ears, nose, arms, or legs. They move on land by undulating their bodies sluggishly. Underwater, however, they move much quicker, being capable of swimming faster than a human. These creatures are also deadly when underwater, as they will instantly kill any victim that is in their sight by swallowing them. Fenrir are dogs that have been zombified from exposure to the T-Abyss virus. Their name comes from a giant wolf from Norse mythology that was one of the sons of Loki. Like the zombie dogs, Fenrir suffer from severe necrosis, to the point where there are gaping holes in the body, exposing flesh and bones. These mutated wolves have been seen in two forms, those that are larger with black fur, and those that are smaller with white fur. The black Fenrirs are the leaders of the wolf packs, and are far larger than their regular cousins, standing easily tall taller than a human being. They summon the pack with a howl upon sighting their prey. While they are less docile than their Doberman-based Cerberus counterparts, their ferocity and combat abilities are far superior. Retaining many wolf features, Fenrir form social groups when hunting, and do not descend on their prey all at once. Their victims slowly exhaust itself in futile attempts to escape from the closing pack in a long, torturous procedure. Hearing distant echoes of Fenrir howling is a sure signal that the hunt has begun. Ghiozzo is a carnivorous fish-based BOW. In a video shown by Jack Norman to the BSAA, he demonstrated the frightening power of the T-Abyss virus by injecting it into a small aquarium filled with a group of small fish. These fish rapidly mutated into a flock of vicious Ghiyozzos upon contact with the virus. Because of the virus's influence, Ghiyozzos had large appetites, sharp teeth, and strong jaws. A school of these ferocious BOWs can eat through large mammals and bones in a matter of seconds, similar to the famous aggression of piranhas. Even worse, the Ghiozzo is now somewhat amphibious, able to move and attack on land to a certain extent. However, they are most effective in their natural aquatic environment. The Scagdead is created when the T-Abyss virus undergoes a secondary mutation within a human host body. This mutation occurs when the victim has a stronger than normal resistance to the virus, slowing its spread. The result is a grotesque, disproportionate body with many bizarre and terrifying mutations. This transformation occurs once in roughly 1,000 hosts. Scagdeads appear as huge, fleshy, lumbering creatures with pillar-like legs. They are slightly taller than an average human, but much bulkier. Their coloration is mostly gray, with a flesh-colored patch where the remnants of the original human host remain. The host's head is effectively displaced by a massive fanged maw, which opens vertically. In some cases, the host's head can repeat some words and phrases, though this is dependent on the extent of the mutations on the head. This also indicates that the host is still slightly aware of its surroundings, but oddly unaware of its fate. The left arm of the creature remains virtually unchanged from a regular human's, albeit slightly thinner and with an additional flipper-like appendage directly beneath it. On the other hand, the Scagdead's right arm has been grotesquely mutated, becoming extensively muscular and tipped with an organic mimicry of a buzzsaw. This appendage can be swung multiple times in quick succession and serves as the Scagdead's primary means of attack. Scagdeads are also capable of vomiting up clam-like objects that serve as bear traps. These objects can stall the player, allowing the Scagdead to close in and attack. The communications officer was a victim to the T-Abyss virus with a terrifying fate. During a terrorist attack on the ship, the officer fled to Promenade Hall, believing it to be a safe haven. Unfortunately, on the second day of locking himself in alone, he discovered Ooze attempting to sneak in through the air vents. As a consequence, he was unable to sleep the next night and became increasingly agitated, beginning to lose his sanity due to increase in fatigue and a viral infection he sustained sometime during the outbreak. Based on his journal, he had become more and more delusional and confused. He interpreted his newly grown mutated head as a friend, continuing his collapse into insanity. Eventually, he mutated into a horrific monster known as the Scagdead, bent on eating any other survivors. However, his remaining human half appeared to be conscious, as he repeatedly recited phrases he had spoken shortly before he lost his humanity.
Mayday, Mayday. Requesting backup. Who's there? Is someone there? I need some help in here. I can't move right. I don't feel like myself anymore. Get me out of here. I need to get out. Mayday, Mayday. Backup. Mayday, Mayday. Wonderful.
He was eventually eliminated by Jill and Parker, ending the tragic fate of the communications officer. Sea creepers, also referred to as Eve, are a pseudo-species derived from humans who have mutated from exposure to the T-Abyss virus. This special mutation tends to happen when a human female body gets infected, whereas human males tend to turn into oozes. The creation of sea creepers would be T-Abyss adapting the host's body to its surroundings, noticeably where sea creepers are found in large bodies of water. The carapace resembles a woman's long hair, which covers the entire body, reducing friction and allowing them to move freely underwater, while also enabling them to creep around the water silently. As soon as these monsters approach their targets, they spread their 6 human-like arms, which they use to hold their prey while they bite into them. A number of female researchers and soldiers mutated into sea creepers during the T-Abyss outbreak. On the Queen Zenobia ship, they were known to have established their own territory in the flooded bilge. Hunters were a cloned species genetically engineered by an unknown organization as bioweapons to be sold to terrorists. They are similar in appearance to Umbrella's series of hunters. These creatures closely resemble the Hunter Alpha and Hunter 2 models, but are noticeably larger and slower. However, they are still very aggressive and hop around sideways to dodge incoming fire. The Farfarello is an independently improved species of the Hunter BOW. They were developed at some point prior to the Queen Zenobia incident, created through infecting hunters with the T-Abyss virus. When infected, these creatures came to be resistant to cold temperatures, as evidenced by them operating on a snowy mountaintop in conditions that would have frozen other models of hunters like the R variant. Farfarello also gained the ability to mimic their surroundings and become invisible. However, because they were exposed to both the T-Virus and T-Abyss virus, they became so aggressive that they were even more difficult to control than a regular hunter. A file found in the game implied that these hunters were intended to be a prototype BOW that could be controlled while being administered prescribed sedatives. It also stated that these BOWs were unpredictable and impossible to control without hourly sedation. Wall blisters are large, grotesque creatures that vaguely resemble undersea barnacles. When they are not clinging onto a surface, they take on a somewhat humanoid appearance, having 2 legs and 2 very long arms, lined with multiple claws. Although seemingly clumsy with their new mutant limbs, wall blisters are surprisingly fast and powerful, capable of keeping pace and using their limbs to easily break a human spine with little to no effort. Their origins appear to be traced to a pool on the Queen Zenobia, where a maintenance worker noted a colony of barnacles attached to the bottom of the pool on March 25th of 2005. Despite the efforts to clear the colony, they returned by March 30th and matured to a size that eventually caused damage to the pipes distributing water to the pool, causing contamination within the pool's water. These barnacles were later speculated upon by the maintenance crew to be a new species due to their unnatural size and appearance. This speculation would come to a close mere days later, after the barnacles had apparently mutated to the point that the workers no longer considered them to be barnacles at all. The Draghignazzo was a BOW encountered by Jill and Parker on the observation deck of the Queen Zenobia. This creature resembled a humanoid shellfish and was at least 3 times the height of Jill and Parker. Most of its body was covered in a hard shell immune to gunfire, but it had multiple patches of exposed flesh that could be shot to inflict damage. Its most prominent feature was a gigantic arm, which served as its main offensive weapon. After restoring power to the elevators in the promenade hall, the 2 agents became aware of something moving on the deck above them when the whole room started shaking. Upon entering the lift, they were attacked by the creature as it ascended, and it attempted to kill them by destroying the lift. Though it was heavily armored, they managed to repel it by shooting its exposed arm. Having reached the top of the observation deck, Jill and Parker were ambushed by the creature again, where it then revealed its true form. However, they managed to kill it for good, and the creature collapsed on the floor as it began to fall apart. Scarmiglione are a hybrid species created through the splicing of shark DNA into the human genome through the use of the T-Abyss as a catalyst. The result is a terrifying monster that has razor-sharp claws and an extremely tough exterior that can withstand most forms of weaponry. The shoulders and neck are protected by a layer of cartilage which protects it as armor. The right arm has developed into a long spear-like implement with thorns, while the left arm has bloated from muscle growth and can be used as a shield. The Scarmiglione was first encountered in the laboratory aboard the ship. Agents Jill and Chris were passing through decontamination when the creature broke through the wall and attacked. It proved a deadly opponent in the narrow confines of the corridor, but the 2 agents managed to escape into a large chamber where they killed the monster with ease. Several Scarmiglione were encountered throughout the laboratory, but were swiftly exterminated by Jill and Chris. Malacoda is a mass of monstrous parasitic worms created through the power of the T-Abyss virus. A larvae Malacoda is only about 1 centimeter in length and infects its host by secreting a liquid that contains the virus. The parasite then mutates inside the host and matures rapidly. The synergistic effect of the T-Abyss and the chemical secretions causes an increase in the organism's metabolism, allowing it to grow in size. The size to which the Malacoda can develop depends on the size of the host. The bigger its host, the bigger it can grow. A fully grown Malacoda appears as a long worm covered in tumorous growths. It has a circular maw ringed with long, thin teeth. It lacks eyes, with only smooth plates covering the top of its head. It can extend to great lengths, and proved powerful enough to crush a helicopter without noticeable recoil damage. In the waters near the Queen Zenobia ship, a large number of Malacodas inhabit what is surmised to be an infected whale. The creature's appearance is grotesquely modified from any known living whale, even sharing some physical attributes with shellfish. The Malacoda whale host is massive, easily swallowing up most of the foredeck on the ship. A large group of Malacoda was seen swimming in the seas around the Queen Zenobia. They attacked Chris and Jessica when they were attempting to board the ship, but they managed to repel them by using mounted guns on their boat. When exploring the ship's laboratory, Jill Valentine narrowly avoided death when a Malacoda parasite broke the aquarium glass, allowing the T-Abyss virus to flood the chamber. Fortunately, she had injected herself with a vaccine moments earlier, allowing her to avoid the infection. When Chris and Jill attempted to evacuate the Zenobia after the self-destruct countdown was triggered, the Malacodas destroyed the rescue helicopter and revealed its host. With the help of rocket launchers dropped by the pilot, the agents managed to subdue the beast and boarded a second helicopter. However, the dozens of Malacodas continued after the two agents. They managed to weaken the host enough to fire a missile down its throat, killing both the host and the Malacodas themselves. Dr. Jack Norman was a university teacher and founder of the organization Veltro, which was a protest movement he controlled as a personality cult consisting largely of his students. Believing that the earth had become degenerate and sinful, Norman began sending his groups on tasks that became more and more extreme. It was this conduct which earned his approach from Federal Bioterrorism Commissioner Morgan Lansdale. By 2005, Norman and Veltro had become pawns of Lansdale in a wider conspiracy to justify increasing the FBC's budget and powers by causing a major bioterrorist incident it would be forced to deal with. For this task, Norman was provided with the newly engineered T-Abyss virus, as well as UAV equipment which could disperse it, and the former Paraguas-owned cruise ships, Queen Dido, Queen Samarius, and Queen Zenobia. While grateful for the donation and ready to go on the offensive, Norman was highly suspicious of Lansdale and made sure to have their meetings recorded. In mid-2005, Veltro made its move on Terra Grigia, a city the group had protested the construction of. From his base on Queen Dido, Norman coordinated the offensive over a period of 3 weeks, while footage of the continued fighting was transmitted to the TV screens across the world. As the FBC began drawing plans to pull out of the city, Veltro ceased to be of relevance to Lansdale's plans, and Norman discovered too late that the 3 ships had been sabotaged. Over the next year, Norman and several other Veltro fighters remained trapped on board Queen Dido, surviving in a large air pocket containing several rooms. The survivors counted down the days of their entombment and blood on the walls, as they were running out of rations very quickly. In an attempt to prolong their lives, Norman instructed his students to infect themselves with syringes carrying T-Abyss and try their best to resist their inevitable mutations. One by one, Norman's remaining students had perished. Knowing more would come, Norman prepared himself for a last stand. Mistaking a BSAA search party for more FBC officers, Norman then injected himself with what remained of the virus and began experiencing violent mutations, becoming the creature known as Ultimate Abyss. This creature appears as a giant humanoid figure with aquatic traits. The creature's left hand is noticeably bigger and possesses sharp claws that serve as its primary weapon. 2 fins sprout from its back, with a massive growth between them. Upon attacking, a flap on the right side of Abyss's chest will open to expose its large heart. The creature began a battle against Jill and Chris. However, in spite of his physical advantages, Norman was fatally wounded by gunfire and ultimately defeated. In his final moments, he made peace with himself and knocked over a candle, destroying his Veltro flag. Rachel Foley was an agent working for the United States federal government's anti-bioterrorism task force, sent to the ship Queen Zenobia to investigate the outbreak of the T-Abyss virus. She was joined by her partner Raymond Vester, but the two were eventually separated due to their missions. While Rachel headed to the back of the ship, Raymond headed to the front. While looking around the ship, Rachel discovered a mass of slime before being ambushed by an ooze. She shot the creature several times before escaping. The creature followed her through the air vents, and Rachel ran into a hallway with more ooze. She shot again, only to run out of ammo and throw her gun on the ground. Rachel managed to get away and reach the elevator, where she was ambushed by yet another ooze, which ended up cutting her leg. She avoided death one final time as the elevator doors opened, allowing her to escape and lock herself in the research room. It was in the research room where she met her tragic end. Surrounded, Rachel was choked as an ooze fed on her bodily fluids and infected her with T-Abyss, finally throwing her at a window. As this happened, Joe was looking for the crew quarters key and arrived just in time to witness the moment when Rachel hit the window and lost consciousness. It is unknown how long Rachel survived her last moments, as when Jill found her, she was speculated as dead. However, as you progress through the game, you'll find out Rachel wrote down her final moments, thus surviving after Jill left. She alludes to her transformation into an ooze, as she mentions her arm becoming deformed, and complains about her head hurting and losing an eye. Shortly after Rachel went into a coma, the T-Abyss virus kicked in and mutated her into a seemingly unique ooze. As Jill returned to find the freight lift key, she noticed that Rachel's body was gone. Jill left the room and was attacked by Rachel, now mutated. She confronted Jill several times, always fleeing and taking heavy damage, but Jill continued to encounter her until she met up with Parker, and the pair supposedly killed her. However, Rachel survived the encounter and frequently attacked the duo as they explored the ship. She was incredibly resilient to gunfire, being downed several times after Jill and Parker initially thought they killed her. Rachel was presumably destroyed permanently when the Queen Zenobia exploded. Rachel's intentions on board the Queen Zenobia were seemingly to investigate and transfer the ship for disposal. Later on, when the player gains her journal, it becomes known that Rachel actually didn't want to go on the mission and had a very grim and pessimistic view on her survival chances, a prospect that grimly became very real, as her tragic story ended with her death on the Queen Zenobia ship. Click this video here to find out the disturbing lore of every enemy from Resident Evil Revelations 2. Thank you for watching.